permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you. Never lose hope.
Here, Fred Shaman.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, Fred!
Welcome to episode 480 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, January 16th, 2025 in the evening. Coming to you from Numbergod, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. From North Rend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
From Teldrassil, California, we have Megesa.
Hello.
And from all around the world, we have you, dear listeners. This week's episode is brought to you by our producers, Number Theory, Kresh, Beef Squatch, David P., Walu, Jeremy T., Bottlecaps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Grizzly Bear, May, and SSJ5 Goku. And by our patrons of the week, The Doctor's Link and Sander Dijon. You can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede to get perks like a thank you at the top of the show, early access to new episodes, one-on-one coaching sessions, and help support the show in the process. If you would like to support the show but cannot do so monetarily, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice, as it always helps other people find the show. So a quick announcement before we get started. Our latest listener series tournament is titled Construct Additional Win Cons. It's a good one. And will begin on January 27th. Sign-ups will open on Monday, January 20th, and continue up until the start of the series. The tournament consists of one best-of-3 conquest match per week, flexibly scheduled with your opponent. And there will be 3 to 5 weeks of Swiss, followed by a top 8 playoffs. The series is a fun way to experience competitive Hearthstone, low-stress environment, and there will be details and instructions to join the series all on our website, coinconcede.com, and of course in the Discord, discord.coinconcede.com. Check out the announcements channel there. So, that done. Life and Ladder. You both are playing this Shaman. So is everyone else, which means I am not. We started getting reveals and I'm just in full waiting room mode, so I've been playing like BGs if that'll do the quests, and if it won't, I pick up something else. Hat reintroduced me to a deck that I gave him, actually, which was my Frost Starship Death Knight, and that's been fun to kind of try again. You know, it still has some of the issues, right? You run into the steal effects, but one thing about it that can be pretty effective is you can set up situations where it's like, yeah, you can steal the starship, but because of the spell burst, I already have a board full of 10 drops, so there's more to worry about than just the starship.
I've been finding when I face DKs, I can like hex or steal like a part or two, but that's not really my best game plan against them because there's always more, and I just need to be killing them if I'm going to win.
Okay, yeah. Let's not pretend that you're actually interacting with anything on the other side of the Death Knight's board when you're playing Hearthstone. Like, let's not even pretend that that's a thing that happens.
Death Knight, no, unless it's a Primus. But like other Shamans, definitely there is a board battle to be won. I am trading more than one would think with other board-based decks. That Frost DK is actually, when I ran into Hat the other day, a couple of weeks ago, what he destroyed me with.
Am I the only one you haven't run into on ladder this week?
Apparently. Although I did finally hit Legend. I mean, not really finally. It's not that late. But I went on quite the win streak a couple days ago, which didn't really feel like a win streak at first, because I had this one loss early to a whiz-bang mage in 11x diamond. Someone was like, hi, I got 11x. Let's see if you really can climb with anything in 11x. So they were playing whiz-bang. And the mage one for whiz-bang is just all of your cards in your hand randomized every turn. And that's the deck.
It sure is.
So
that sounds like something I would love to play against. and not get salty about in the slightest.
I sent you two such a salty message because they got MC Tech on 5 and stole my 6/7 bouncer, which I was about to just like run them over completely. And then every turn thereafter, they got Lifesteal Rush of some variety or another.
Sure, as one does. Yeah.
So they won. And I was like, and then I went on to win like 10 in a row, which I had to go back and look at the deck tracker and be like, oh, I just won like I was like an 11 win streak after that loss. So that worked out well, brought me to Legend, got me back to right about the 1K mark, which is about where I'm hovering now. There's still a lot of people coming into Legend, so I'll drop a bit over time. The higher you get, the less that happens.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to drop that much at this point. Yeah.
I have been dropping a little bit when I'm not playing, but yeah, not a lot. We have had some more like first time legends in the Discord. When you come into Legend, especially early in the month, you will just drop when you're not playing. It's not because your MMR is dropping, it's because people are coming into Legend who had an MMR ahead of you. If you stay the same, then you're actually climbing. If you drop, your MMR is not dropping necessarily. So that's like usual PSA for people. Except for that one particular mage game, the Menagerie handbuff Shaman has really served me well. I have, screenshots of like 6/7 bouncers on 4 because you went the party animal on 2 and then Turbulus on 3 and then bouncer on 4. That's a little bit of a dream hand, but I had one game versus a Druid where they kept like freezing or blocking but not killing my Ziliax, and I finally killed them with a 96 attack Ziliax to face on 8. They kept putting unkilliaxes in the way, and I kept like not quite being able to clear all of them, but being able to keep my guy alive and then put taunts in the way so they couldn't kill my Ziliax for like 3 or 4 turns in a row. And finally, somehow I copied the Ziliax. I'm not quite sure how I did that, but somehow I had 2 of them at one point, and so I sacrificed one for the final blow and got myself down to 4 health with my Horn of the Windlord to get through a final unkilliax to get that 96 face. I was like, I don't care how much lifesteal you get, it has 96 attack. You are dying. And yeah, it's just a fun deck. It's one where if you're playing against another board-based deck, you do actually have this interesting tension of like, you need to go face, but you care about the board. Except for sometimes you just put little taunts in the way and say, deal with this and keep going face. So it's different enough that I'm enjoying it, but similar enough that I felt like I knew how to play it from the gate. So that made it good for somebody who was pretty frustrated last week and the week before and needed something that was just like simple and effective, at least for somebody with the style of play that I have. So, and I don't mind the mirror too much, which is good because it does show up. Death Knight's probably my least favorite matchup. Surprise. No one is surprised. I don't even know if that's the worst matchup. I'm just like, ugh.
Well, I can tell you I have a 0% win rate with it against Excavate Rogue.
I saw this game.
Yes. Yeah. So I also was playing the Menagerie Shaman on stream because I've basically given up playing control decks until rotation. It's not happening. Like there's no way to actually play like a.
Well, we'll see.
Okay. Well, I've not been successful with any sort of a control deck, and so that's kind of led to me having a little bit less fun in the game lately. But this is also just not the meta for it, and maybe at rotation it'll get better somehow. But for right now, I'm gonna play what the meta gives me. So I saw that everybody was having good results, so I'm like, fine. I'm gonna stream on Monday anyway. Let's just try it. And yeah, I went like 21-9 over the 3-hour stream. But I ran into an Excavate Rogue who So if you do not believe that I can hit face mercilessly in a game, wait until you see me queue into an Excavate Rogue, because I will do everything I can in my power to make them regret all of their life choices. However, All of that work was undone by one generated deputization aura.
No.
Yeah. Oh, what was the other thing? I don't even remember. I just remember the deputization aura.
There was a stick up into a judgment unworthy on your turn 4 Ziliax.
Oh, that's right. That was the other thing. So they killed off. So I got very good at playing Ziliax on 4 or really 3. Right. So like the deck is running. The thing that's really important to understand about the deck is that it's running the Ziliax who doubles its attack and that punches you in the face. You can play it on 4. And which means if you're on the coin, it took me a few games to figure this out. You're running one copy of Drone Deconstructor, which is the only mech in your deck other than Ziliax. And the reason that is there is that in a perfect world, and this happened to me more than once, so you can play Drone Deconstructor on 1 into Trusty Companion on 2. The only mech that's left in your deck is Ziliax. So you draw Ziliax and you coin it on 3 and you say, good luck. And I did that. And the rogue just stumbled into the answer. And then that bought them enough time to be able to gain back another 30 life with the deputization aura to be able to win that game. Thankfully, that was the exception, not the rule. And thankfully, I was streaming because I for sure would have rage quit after that game. I'm already halfway there whenever I queue into an excavate rogue. And then, for it to go that way would have been session ending, but for the fact that I was streaming. But I was very good at drawing the good card and getting it out on 3 or 4. And sometimes they can get out of the way once, or they can survive one attack with the Ziliax, but the second one is going to kill them.
Or even if you do, they kill it, but they took 12 or whatever.
Yeah. Then you're dealing 20.
Right. Well, but even if they kill it after one attack, you did a bunch of damage.
Yeah.
I had one game today where I had been holding from I'm playing one with the Scarab Beetle, and I got offered nothing good, so I took Crazed Alchemist. And then they played Grifta, and Grifta gave me the steal, but it has one attack. And then they played Ceaseless Expanse. So I stole it and flipped it and attacked them. It actually didn't quite kill them because they were a warrior. They had a ton of armor. So then I hexed it myself so that they wouldn't have a 15-15 at the end. That was a little bit of a not great use of a hex, but I would have had to hex it on the other end of the board, and at least that way this time I was the one with the little frog taunt instead of them the one with the little frog taunt.
So the consequence of me, so I should say I started at 1250, and I got myself up to 600 legend over the course of that stream. I decayed a little bit down to 675. I played a game today before the stream, one game, because I realized after this game I should not have been playing given how tired I was, because we went back and forth. I got Party Animal into Turbulus into Bouncer. And we were going back and forth, and I don't know exactly what happened. We both also had Gorgon Zormu in our opening hands. So they had played a Gorgon Zormu on 3. I decided to play Turbulus first and then play the Gorgon Zormu. So my cheese minions were smaller. They had played their cheese minions and they were I think 6 drops. And I had played a Horn of the Windlord, and they only had 1 taunt, and they immediately conceded. It was a really good thing that they did, because I had not even looked up at their life total. I was just worried about the giant board. And I hadn't even looked up at their life total. And if I had looked up at their life total, I don't know if I did have lethal or not. I probably did, but I would have missed it, because I was just concerned with the fact that they had a bunch of giant things that were about to hit me in the face, and I didn't realize that player removal was an option. So that's when when they conceded, I'm like, oh, I probably just missed lethal and didn't miss it. And they missed lethal by not letting me miss lethal. So I should probably stop playing right now, because I am not in a state to play. So, yeah.
Yeah. What is this? The first time we are all 3 of us in top 1K area?
It might be. Usually one of us has had a series of misadventures by this point.
Which is kind of insane with, Wicked, yours and my sort of gripes about the present meta and everything.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that I'm just like, I'm not playing a lot off stream. So like if I start getting to the point where I am tilted, which happens very quickly, then I just stop.
Right.
And so that's kind of preserving my rank, as opposed to like if I was enjoying the meta a little bit more, I'd probably try to push through when I shouldn't be playing. And then I'd probably lose more ranks with janky stuff. So, but I'm playing the good stuff.
Definitely have been on more occasions, not necessarily playing the good stuff, but I'm more likely to be like, I'm very upset, and actually my quests are done, so I will, continue making progress in Final Fantasy or something. But we actually have quite a few cards to talk about. The reason for no live show this week is because we wanted to talk about some things that, as if you're listening to this, will be out, but as of recording this, are not revealed. So, I would love if we could kind of start talking about Heroes of Starcraft.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
Yeah, so thanks to Blizzard for giving us, preview access to the reveal, so we're able to record this on our normal night and then get this to you. So if you're a patron, you're probably listening to this right now. We're releasing this to the patrons as soon as the patch notes have been released on Friday morning. If you're not a patron and you want to be able to get access to the episode as soon as it's available, when we do get these opportunities, you can go to patreon.com/CoinConcede and go sign up for that. And then you will get early access to the raw audio. That's released as soon as, usually it's the next morning, but in this case, it's going to be as soon as the patch notes are released. But so we have the patch notes for the mini set, which is going to be Heroes of Starcraft. It is going to be live January 21st, which is Tuesday at Blizzard o'clock, which is 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Adjust for your local municipality. There are going to be 49 cards. The cost will be a little bit higher than normal if you are paying in gold. So it's going, actually, were they always $20 in cash, or were they $15 in cash before? I think they were always $20 in cash, right? The mini sets.
I want to say they were always 20, but I don't recall, particularly because the last several I've just been opening up accrued packs from Heroic.
And I've just saved the gold for it. But anyway, so it's $20 in USD or 2,500 gold this time around, or you can buy an all golden version for $79.99 or 12,000 gold. That will come with a diamond copy of Grunty, who is the one card that we will not be discussing today, because that will be revealed at some time in the future after, which is far enough in the future that we don't want to wait for it. So Grunty will do things, but we won't talk about that today. But Grunty is also adorable. So
Grunty will be cute for sure.
Yes. We know that. That we know. We've seen Grunty. We know he's cute. So you can also, interestingly, you can buy the mini set in pieces. So the classes are going to be divided into the 3 StarCraft factions of Terran, Protoss, and Zerg. You can buy just the one faction for 1,200 gold or $9.99 each. Now, this is something that you have to be incredibly sure that you are not going to want to play the other 2 factions, because this is a terrible deal if you decide later that you want to get the other 2, because you're paying 30% more to do that. So if you're buying all 3 of them piecemeal, you're then paying either $30 instead of 20 or 3,600 gold instead of 2,500 gold. So do consider this really, really closely. But if you're going to say, I only play those, I only care about one of the factions, and I don't care if the other 2 are meta, or I only play, one of these classes and I only care about the faction for that. That is an option for you if you want to keep your costs down. And as a reminder, the way that the factions are going to break down is Terrans are going to be Warrior, Shaman, and Paladin. That's going to be focusing around battle cruisers, which are a special kind of starship that's being introduced in this set. Protoss are going to be Druid, Rogue, Mage, and Priest, and they're going to focus around making big things cheaper so they can cheat them into play. And Zerg is going to be Hunter, Death Knight, Demon Hunter and Warlock, and that's going to be around more swarming strategies.
Yeah.
So you can decide that as you will, but that is a nice option to have in case you do only want one of the factions.
Yeah, I think this is really smart, particularly with them, raising the gold on the general thing. Like, at least you can do a lower amount for just a third, and slightly uneven, right? If you do Terran, it's fewer cards because it's only 3 classes, but that's just because the breakdown is 11 classes, not 12. I really love, though, that what I'll be able to do is like open all my packs and potentially say, okay, is there a particular faction where I just didn't get many cards from, right? And I could get just that faction and then fill in my gaps on the other ones with, dust or whatever. So, it's just nice to have the option of piecemeal, even if it's, a higher rate for that section. I think we can bet Sidisi is just going to get the Zerg one.
I mean, almost certainly. I mean, I don't know, because he does really enjoy dusting priest legendaries.
This is making me think that, now that we're receiving more expansion packs instead of standard packs, maybe I should have been saving them all this time. And because I have a huge dust, like, nest egg that I'm just sitting on, that I'm planning on probably using a bunch for the next expansion, just dust. But yeah, if you have a bunch of packs, and you have the rest of the cards in Great Dark Beyond, you can just open them and find out what you might need.
So, it's also important to note, aside from Grunty, all of the neutrals are faction cards. So they're all playable by any one of the 3 factions, and there are no neutrals that are not, or there are no cards that do not belong to one of the 3 factions, except for Grunty. So that is something that if you do that, I don't know if you can get Grunty if you buy them all piecemeal that way, because I don't think he's both part of any faction. But
I think you would have to craft him or open him.
Yeah.
Alas.
But, yeah. I mean, yeah, if you want Grunty, get the whole thing. But so there are going to be some launch events next week. On Thursday, January 23rd, we will have Starcast, where Trump SC, the good Trump, and Day 9 will play in an in-person show match with the casters of Tasteless and Artosis. Now, if you are not familiar with StarCraft esports, those names will not be familiar to you. If you have ever heard of any StarCraft esports ever, they are the iconic casters for StarCraft from
Also,
going back forever.
Of note, Trump SC is StarCraft.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So
yes, we think of him from Hearthstone, but yes, also a StarCraft player, I believe. Yeah.
And Day 9, I think, played a bunch of stuff, including StarCraft.
He did. Yeah, he used to actually cast StarCraft for a period of time as well. So yeah, this is a big deal. If you are a fan of any StarCraft stuff, this is a huge nostalgia shot in the arm. And
I mean, it was the esport for a while. Right?
It was the only one. Yeah. If there will also be drops for this and the other event. So there will be you'll get 1 regular and 1 golden Great Dark Beyond pack for watching on the Play Hearthstone channel. The Heroes of Starcraft cards will be available in the Great Dark Beyond packs, so you can just get some of those cards that way. On Friday, January 24th, the one on Thursday is at 10 a.m. Pacific, by the way, which is 1 p.m. Eastern. On Friday, January 24th at 9 a.m. Pacific or noon Eastern, there will be a community tournament of sorts, where 9 creators will be grouped into the 3 factions in 3 groups of 3 for Hearthstone matches and mini games, sort of like the Solary like summer party type thing. And they will all be taking turns casting with Sottle. So that should be a very fun event. Team Terran is going to be Feelink, John Bray, and Baby Bear. Team Protoss is going to be Zeddy, Tars, and Theo. And Team Zerg is going to be Curly, Lilithy, and Donkey of HS Guru fame. So that'll be a lot of fun. So you'll want to tune into that as well. Again, you will also get a regular and a golden Great Dark Beyond pack for tuning in to that as well. We're going to talk about the cards in Decksplanations. So this is going to be everything but the cards that we're going to cover in news. But we, in the patch notes, we obviously the mini set is launching. There will be a Sarah Kerrigan Mythic Hero skin for the 4 Zerg classes, which again are Hunter, Death Knight, Demon Hunter, and Warlock. It'll be available for all those classes, similar to the Ragnaros one. I expect this will be something pretty cool. I haven't seen it yet. I don't think I don't know if any of either of you have, but this is going to be very cool. I would expect it's for something like this. So
there's a still in the that I screenshot for the show notes, but we haven't seen it as of when we're talking. We haven't seen it animated yet. You may well have seen that by the time you hear this. I believe in the actual show notes and not the preview copy we're going off of. I believe that is a GIF, so you should be able to get an idea what's looking like. But I'm sure that will be. You will not miss that in the shop when it is available. I'm pretty confident of that.
This one might get me.
Yeah, it might get me too. I play enough Warlock that I can. I hate playing for a Hunter skin, but I can justify it for the other classes. I play enough Death Knight and Warlock that I could probably justify it.
It's gonna be so much. It's gonna be so expensive, but 4 classes.
Yeah, it'll come with some packs and stuff like that too. So maybe you do that before you commit to buying the mini set. That might offset some of it. Who knows? Yeah. But it looks awesome, and Kerrigan I love Kerrigan. So yeah, Kerrigan is the one out of those 3 that I would want to buy. Like I could care less about Artanis, and I certainly could care less about Raynor, but Kerrigan I would. Oh, shots fired! Yeah. No, they knew what they were doing. Yeah. Yep. So there is going to be a standard balance change that is going to arrive as part of this patch, which is that Ethereal Oracle is going from 3 mana to 4 mana. So the dev comment is Ethereal Oracle has been one of the strongest and most ubiquitous cards in the meta since the launch of the Great Dark Beyond. In hindsight, this is probably a card we should have addressed in the last balance patch. Unfortunately, the timing of that patch wasn't ideal because we try to avoid high impact changes heading into an extended winter break where we wouldn't be able to react to unforeseen problems that might arise. Instead, we're adding the change to this major patch because we're already expecting a meta shakeup with the mini set, and we have our usual built-in balance window a few weeks from now for any necessary follow-up adjustments. And that will be available for full dust refunds for 2 weeks after the change goes live with patch 31.4. Now, that change may well be invisible with all the changes because I expect that a lot of people are going to be focusing a lot more on the StarCraft factions, and those seem to be a lot more minion based than spell based, but you never know. Maybe pushed a little, a lot, just a little. Maybe not Warlock, but a lot of stuff looks real good. You kind of have to make a mini set that's a 6th set mini set and make it actually see play. You kind of have to push the hell out of it. Sure. I think some of it is that. I think some of it is it's StarCraft. It must land. Yes. Yeah. This is not, you're not, there's, I don't want to say no chance, but there's very little chance of you going in and saying, I can't play the StarCraft ones. You might not be able to play all the factions. There might be one that's real better than the other. I can't really tell from what we're looking at. I'm not saying that there is. I'm just saying that there's a possibility that could be happening. So none of the heroes look bad. At minimum, you will see the heroes all the time. Yeah. Yeah, and their thing, we'll talk more about the cards, but even though we won't be getting more cards that are like from the StarCraft factions, most likely, they're flexible enough archetypes that they could still benefit from future cards after rotation, I think. At least some of them. Yeah. But I mean, you're gonna be going pretty hard into one of the factions when you're deck building, I think. Well, we'll get to that. Yeah.
They're clearly synergistic with themselves, but
and unless we're getting, Heroes of Starcraft 2 later on, then, that's going to be it, which, I mean, who knows? We could, or, they got Wings of Liberty. They got 3 expansions to go through. They could do it. That could be every mini set for the next year. Is okay. Here's set 1, Wings of Liberty mini set. Here you go. But I don't think that's what's going to happen.
In the Emerald Dream, and then
oh my god, yeah. I don't know. Maybe you're dreaming of Terrans. What do I know? I don't know what Ysera dreams about. Anyway, so there will be an in-game event, January 21st to February 11th. You will pick one of 3 event tracks, and you will earn 13 packs, 5 Perils in Paradise, and 8 Great Dark Beyond, plus a faction-specific hero skin. The skins for the 2 that you do not pick, or that won't be available to you by having picked one of them, will be available in the in-game shop after the event ends. So you'll be able to get them, but you'll be able to earn one for free. So whichever faction you like the best, pick that one, and then play games. And I'm sure that there will be things that will incentivize you to play the StarCraft cards that you're already going to want to play anyway, so you probably will breeze through it. Arena is getting an update as it is a major patch. So there's going to be an arena rotation. All current arena runs will end. A new arena season will begin. The arena sets that will be available will be Voyage to the Sunken City, Murder at Castle Nathria, Whizbang's Workshop, Perils in Paradise, and the Great Dark Beyond, including Heroes of Starcraft. They have also added a new arena-only card, which is a 4-mana 4/3 mech named Wayward Probe, which is an adorable little Protoss probe. With Battlecry and Death Rattle, get a random starship piece. So, given that you'll probably be drafting a fair amount of starship stuff, given these sets, that's a little bit of additional support for that.
It makes sense because in Arena, you can't, the starships need a critical mass to be powerful enough. And in Arena, you can't get that so easily.
Yeah.
Well, and if you get like just one piece, it really kind of sucks. Like when I was playing some of the Shaman, would different Shaman, the Jombre Shaman, intentionally evolve away things that would die and become starship on my board because board space is valuable, and I did not want a starship puck on my board that will just turn into a 3/2 or something.
Yeah, actually, that I forgot to mention in Life on Ladder. I ran into you playing the Jombre Shaman. I got totally destroyed. Didn't really realize what was happening because it was like big shaman but also pirates, which turned out to be a pretty effective combo. And I had also run into a lot of other weird things that day, and I won all the other weird matchups. There was a spell mage, there was an excavate warlock, there was a Reno druid. I was happy to win that one. But
an excavate warlock.
Yeah. No, it was
That's
like
choice.
Straight up.
Mm-hmm.
Hard running all those cards. I did not end up seeing the snake because they were dead.
So the new and returning player decks are getting updated with 31.4. I don't think we've seen those lists yet, but those will be available. We might talk about those briefly next week if news is light. And then there's a twist update. So on February 4th, the Wonders XL format will end and the Wonderful Ungoro format will begin. Wonderful Ungoro is a 30-card format using the Wonders format, but adding Journey to Ungoro. So the following sets will be part of it: Curse of Naxxramas, Goblins vs. Gnomes, Blackrock Mountain, the Grand Tournament, League of Explorers, Whispers of the Old Gods, One Night in Karazhan, Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, Journey to Ungoro, but the Caverns Below is banned, and Caverns of Time. The Wonderful Ungoro format will end with the February season, and then Twist will be on hiatus. We will have more information about Twist seasons in a future update, so we'll see. I've tried to queue into a couple of Twist games and then waited several minutes to queue and then queued into the same person 2 or 3 times in a row and then stopped playing. So, whatever. We'll see. I don't expect that the Wonderful Ungoro format is going to do a whole lot to improve interest, but we will see what they end up doing with it. There are also a number of bug fixes and improvements in this patch. We are not going to go through all of them, but there are some relevant ones. So like Galakrond and Cthulhu, they just made this change recently. I believe we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. You will not be able to randomly discover or generate StarCraft faction cards unless you started the game with at least one card from your deck in that faction, or you are actively the hero for that faction. I would assume that means the hero card and not the mythic Kerrigan hero portrait. But you know, that's I'm assuming, but I don't know that for sure. Some older cards have had their names updated. Banshee is now Wailing Banshee, Mothership is now Stormcoil Mothership, and Hallucination is now Spore Hallucination. The reason for this is that there are cards in this mini set that reference StarCraft units or StarCraft mechanics that have those names, and they wanted to, obviously, they can't have more than one card with the same name. So they're updating the older cards because these are referencing StarCraft things that are specific, that can't have a new name, so they can just make the older cards be whatever they ought to be. Cards that draw an unfixed amount of cards will now check for player deaths between draws, meaning that if you draw a plague from a card like Malygos the Spellweaver, and your life goes to 0, you will now immediately lose instead of continuing to draw and possibly gaining the life back. However, cards that draw a set amount like Arcane Intellect will finish their full effect before checking for deaths. So this will, most of the time, this will just spare you from having to watch something drawing a million cards. Every once in a while, this means that it could bail you out. That's much more rare. So,
but what if I have soul fragments in my deck?
Then we'd have to do a wellness check on you because you're playing wild for some reason. And that's not a thing that you typically do. And I wonder if that's when we should check to make sure that you haven't been kidnapped. So they fixed a bug where Screaming Banshee didn't work with Airlock Breach. I forget is Screaming Banshee is the one that cares about you gaining life, right? And then it makes a minion. Yeah. So I'm sure that came up a lot with Screaming Banshee being like a 5 or 6 mana card, and Airlock Breach being a 6 mana card. So, but you know, somebody made that happen. So, okay.
I think part of why we haven't seen it is because it didn't work, right? And Screaming Banshee is not seeing other play.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. I mean, it is a nice curve. Like if they can't kill the Banshee, then you get a board full of 5/5s.
Yeah.
I guess if you get like the Gigantify card to discount it, and that's your random undead, and then you could play it into I don't know. There's always ways you can make these things happen. But
yeah.
They fixed a bug where magnetic effects didn't work properly with static board-wide stat increases like Ziliax Deluxe 3000 or Stormwind Champion. Okay, so basically Ziliax, because Stormwind Champion is I mean, I guess in Arena it's a card. So I think what this is saying is that if you had a Ziliax on board that was giving all your minions +1/+1, and you played a magnetic mech, the magnetic mech would magnetize before it got the benefit of the board-wide buff. And so if you have, say, what's a magnetic mech that we would
Sparkbot.
actually see play? So Sparkbot, how is that? Oh yeah, like a Sparkbot's a 1/1, right? So
yeah,
it theoretically with the Ziliax on board, it should give the mech that you're magnetizing a 2/2/2, but it would only give it +1/+1. So now it should give it the +2/+2.
Huh. I feel like
I wish it didn't go the other direction.
Should work where it doesn't give you extra. I don't know.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird thing. Fine. I'm surprised that we're just finding out about this now. Like, magnetic has been in the game for how long? But, you know, okay. Fixed a bug where launching a starship could count as summoning twice for when summoned effects. So I guess the transform is not actually a summon, but it was counting as one.
Mm-hmm.
Now it will, in fact, be one minion that was summoned.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess you're summoning it when the starship puck hits the board, not when you're transforming it. Or one or the other. I don't know which one actually counts, but I guess it was counting when the Starship Puck hit the board and then when you press launch and it transformed. And now it's not actually going to count for one of those, but it doesn't make clear which one it's going to count for.
But it doesn't really matter because it should be one minion. Yeah.
Well, it should only matter if you care about when that's going to trigger, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
So, fix a bug where Exarch Maladar's effect could use corpses to pay for forge or tradable costs. So Exarch Maladar says that your next card costs X less, where X is the number of corpses that you have, or you could spend corpses to discount it. I forget how it's worded. But it shouldn't be used to pay for a cost like forge or tradable. So, but
Can you
it
imagine
was
how sad that would be that you play your Maladar,
yeah,
and then you trade your thing, and then you can't play your whatever you were trying to discount, your CNE or whatever it was.
Yeah, that would be
Someone went and immediately either like added hat if they felt like they could, or just went to Reddit and posted a really salty thing, and then they were like,
Yes.
"Oh, we should fix that."
Yeah. Blizzard devs are corrupt because they're not giving me my whole discount. They call the FTC. Like, so fix a bug where orbital halo would get reduced to 0 when your opponent played cards.
This didn't really actually matter for anything, but you'd be sitting there with orbital halo in your hand, and it would just be 0 during your opponent's turn, and then it would be back to 2 on your turn. So it didn't like matter, but it just looked
weird.
Very weird. Yeah.
What if you could play it as an instant?
Been playing too much Magic there.
I know. Yeah. No, I just don't even like. They're not even adjacent. How does that happen? Anyway, that's how programming works. Things happen that are weird. Fix an issue where certain legacy cards were not included in the eligible Twist Wonders card pool. So, Wonders is including core, which is not necessarily all of the original Classic cards, or Classic doesn't include all of Legacy. Like when they started going to core, they introduced the Classic set for Classic, and then they retired that when Classic turned into Twist, and now it's Legacy. You should be able to play with all the cards you were able to play with back then, and you couldn't, so now you can. And players who miss getting Bob the Bartender from the event can now get the normal version by going to the pack opening screen with a regular Great Dark Beyond pack and get the golden version with the golden Great Dark Beyond pack. So if you did not get Golden Bob, go watch Hearthcast or Starcast, get your golden Great Dark Beyond pack, and then go go open it, and then you will get golden Bartender Bob. That's your life hack from me for today.
And if you get lucky, you'll also get a golden StarCraft hero with duplicate protection. So do this before you buy the mini set.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, if you can wait till Friday, which you might not be able to, but
it's true. You might not be able. That's true. Tuesday to Friday is a pretty big gap.
Yep. Oh, and also for some reason, Bloodbound Imp didn't get buffed by Kill Jaden's Portal. Sure. It's a legitimate thing. And also there was a bunch of other bug fixes. We're not going to go through all of them. These are the ones that are actually going to impact your daily experience. So, but there is one other thing that came out that was not in the patch notes, but just a notice that, the Nosdormu quest didn't fire on the 15th like it's supposed to. So every 15th of the month is Nosdormu Day, where if you play with Nosdormu in your deck, then you will get a quest reward. This 15th, Nosdormu was apparently late, which is ironic. So, so you'll be able to go back and they'll have that later. They'll have some sort of announcement, but you'll get another Nosdormu quest. It just wasn't on time. But speaking of time, hell, it's about time to go talk about StarCraft. So let's go do that.
All right, so we have the Heroes of Starcraft, and I am not someone who's played a lot of StarCraft, but people who I've been talking to have played a lot of StarCraft have really been impressed with the link between, for me as someone who mostly just plays Hearthstone, these cards feel like they fit into Hearthstone well, but I also can recognize that the art really matches StarCraft. the feel from people who know more about this than me. Edel is nodding her head. Feels really StarCraft. So just as in StarCraft, we have the 3 factions, Terran, Protoss, Zerg. And there's actually a neat little trick. If you go into the card library, you can sort it by faction in the filters.
That's a new feature they just added to the card library. And you can also use that for like the tri-class factions from Mean Streets of Gadgetzan if you want to. And I think there's like one other one that you can do. So
this actually makes it really easy to see all the cards, all the new miniset cards for a given class, which previously was always difficult because you couldn't filter by miniset. It was always very annoying whenever we had to do these miniset episodes. So now you can just go in and filter. And each class there's 5 faction specific cards, which they kind of look like neutral cards, but they're like multi-class cards for the whole faction.
They have a, like, I'm reminded of like an armband. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so even the class faction cards, right? Or I guess they're not faction. Even the class cards within a faction have the symbol of that faction on them. But then the ones that are available to each of those classes have an additional, like, beige band on the opposite side of the card. So the faction shows up under the mana cost, and then on the opposite side of the card, there's like a little symbol kind of indicating that it is usable by multiple classes.
And it has a neutral color. Yeah.
Right. Now, my understanding is that they will appear neutral like this, but if they're in your deck, they will get the border of the class you're playing.
Oh, yes. I think you're right. So, yes, if you're playing, for example, Jim Raynor, who is the hero card for the Terrans, in, say, Shaman, he will appear blue and be a Shaman card for purpose of whether this card is a Shaman card. But if you play him in Paladin, he will be yellow, and if you play him in Warrior, he will be red. And if you're looking at it in the collection, he will be neutral, gray.
And for you wild enjoyers, they also are adding this tri-class symbol to the Gadgetzan factions. So like if you go look at like Don Honcho or Kazakis, I guess would be the one that you'd probably be most likely to see. Then you'll see a little that armband added on the right side of the card as well.
Now, I don't know if that means that if you go into your collection and you go into Paladin, you will see these among your Paladin cards in the collection, or if you still have to go looking for them among the neutrals. That I don't know, but it is nice to get kind of the color clarification. Another thing that I sort of wonder about is for any rogue stuff, or I guess other classes too, things that say from another class. Are factions considered another class? I don't know.
If you're playing Burgle Protoss, you need to reconsider your life choices.
Someone will, though. That is a good question.
And that's already making me upset.
I would think that if you are a rogue, Protoss cards that are like neutral Protoss cards, or like full faction Protoss cards, would count as being rogue cards for you. But if it was like a priest Protoss card, it would count as being from another class.
Right, but what I'm saying is you play some, like, Thistle Tea. Can you get Liftoff? Right? Is that a spell from another class, or is it a neutral spell? So, I just
Well, it's not, if it's not, you wouldn't get it anyway, because neutrals are not class cards.
That's the thing. Is it a neutral or a class card?
Oh, yeah.
When you're not when you're not playing it, yeah. That we don't know.
Yeah.
But for the purpose of Discover and things like that.
Yeah. That'll be fun. Because I mean, that was the whole thing around like why they ended up giving out like so many more rares of the neutral, like disproportionate number of the neutrals in Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, because they counted them as every class that they belong to. So there were 3 times as many of those cards in the pool as there were for every other class card or the regular neutrals. And also there wasn't duplicate protection on anything but legend. I don't even know if there were for legendaries.
Like Pity Timer?
No, like duplicate protection on legendaries. I don't even think that was not until Angora, which was after that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So people were just getting like multiple copies of Aya and multiple copies of Kazakus because they were tri-class.
It's tough.
Good times. There's your Hearthstone history lesson from Hearthstone Boomer. There we go. Anyway, let's talk about StarCraft.
So in StarCraft, yes, there are 5 faction-specific cards, including a hero card, and then 3 like class cards from that faction for each class. And some of them, they still count as like a Protoss card or a Terran card or a Zerg card, which tends to count especially for Protoss and Zerg. They care about other Protoss and Zerg cards a lot. So if it has the little blue symbol under the mana cost, then that will tell you, like, is it a Terran card? Is it a Protoss card? Is it a Zerg card? But the other way to tell is, like, is it a card from this mini set and it's associated with a class from this faction, then it is that card. Like, there's no cards in this mini set that don't have a faction except for Grunty, which we're not discussing.
But they don't have a minion type, right? So it's not like there's no Zerg like minion type or like Terran minion type. Like there are minions that are mechs for Terran, but they don't have a Terran minion type. It's the faction that makes it a Terran card.
It's almost like imps or something. Like, it's not a minion type. It's just a thing that some cards are.
Yeah. That's just like an invisible tag that the devs put on there or sometimes forget to put on there and then have to correct later.
Yeah.
Yeah, except for these have a clear ribbon on them. And I'm sure with the accessibility mod, there will be something that will say, like, what type of card this is. So the Terran class cares a lot about starships and particularly battlecruisers. And battlecruisers have unique art and also are actually mechs. So that makes them different from starships that we've seen from before in Great Dark Beyond, which are sort of magical Titan things, and they're not actually mechanical exactly, or they're magical Dark Legion things if you're Warlock. These are actually mechs, which means that magnetic and stuff like that will work for them. And I mean, where do we want to start with Jim Raynor here?
Yeah.
Jim
Raynor, good way to start.
Is the 7 mana hero card, 5 armor, of course. Says Battlecry, relaunch every starship that you launched this game. And his hero power, Stim Pack, is 2 mana, summon a 2/2 Marine with Taunt, give your Terran minions +2 attack. So that would be basically any minion from this mini set, except Grunty.
And the starship, right?
And the starship, I believe, yes, also counts as a Terran minion.
Yeah.
So that will also get +2 attack.
Yeah. I was a little disappointed to find out that, like, oh, there's no battle cruiser card. It's just the look of their starship. But yeah, Marines are kind of like, there is no Marine card, but Marines are summoned by some things. And the main one being Jim Raynor's hero power. Basically, it summons you a 4/2 taunt, right? Because you get a 2/2 taunt summoned, and then immediately it gets buffed by 2. Kind of a nuts hero power when you think about it.
Especially because it doesn't say until end of turn.
Well, yeah, right. So Thunderbluff Valiant, I believe, was like,
yes,
inspire, you give your totems +2 attack, and of course the hero power of Shaman was summon a totem, so that was making a 2/2 totem, or I guess sometimes 3/1. Very, very similar vibes here, except that it buffs, I guess, not guaranteed your whole board, but
it's probably your whole board. If you're playing Jim Raynor, it's probably your whole board, realistically.
I mean, I think there's definitely, well, we'll talk more about the warrior cards, but a mech / starship warrior definitely seems at least worth exploring. And a lot of the other pieces that we have in Terran, care about starships and battlecruisers. So we have SCV is a 1 mana 1/3 mech. Battlecry, your next starship launch costs 2 less, and that's not this turn, that's just in general, and I assume those can stack with each other.
Yep.
We also have a location starport. Summon a 2/1 starship piece with an effect when launched that has 2 durability. So those starship pieces, they're not collectible, but there's a couple things that will give them to you. So for example, the Viking is a 2/1 mech that says starship piece, when this is launched, gain 7 armor, or another one, when this is launched, deal 2 damage to all enemies. When this is launched, gain 3 random bonus effects. Deal 5 damage to a random enemy. Summon 2/2 Marines with taunt. So you could get any of those effects, not right away when you play the starport, but when you launch the starship. And then again, when Raynar relaunches the starship. And it also works with Exodar. It counts as a starship piece with Exodar.
And still pretty reasonable is like, okay, so you starport on 2, immediately summon a 2/1, and then on 4, you can summon another 2/1. Like, you know, not amazing stats-wise, but being location, you get the 2 charges, and yeah, if you've played SCV or each class here also has like a class card that reduces your next launch by 2. I think you really only need to get one of those to happen for you to feel okay of going like, okay, I'll do 3 to launch this.
Yeah. I mean, 3 is great. 3 is good. 1 is like a no-brainer, right? Like, especially if you're getting it a second time, you know you're going to get it a second time with Raynar, or maybe you're going to get 2 of them if you played the Exodar, got all the pieces, launched it again, and then you can Raynar. Like you're going to be more willing to fire off battle cruisers a little bit more liberally than you might in the other starship decks.
Yeah, it is going to be funny sometimes, like how small the battleships that you'll be launching will be, like because they'll just be made of a couple of 2/1s. They'll be like these 4/2 battleships that just have good when launched effects, right?
And you could also get these. So there's a card Liftoff, which we mentioned briefly. It's a 3 mana spell for any Terran class. Draw two Terran cards. So that could really tutor your Raynar, for example. Although you're probably playing a few of them to work with each other. And then that also summons a 2/1 starship piece with an effect when launched. So you could easily have quite a few of these in your starship, and then repeat that, and have a lot of little starships that then come back in like a fleet of little battle cruisers. Which seems like it could be pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I think a lot of the times I would rather be launching for 3 than to like do 1 for 1 and then have to do another one for 5, just because I think there's going to be lots of instances where like committing 5 mana to a smaller starship, I think, could feel kind of expensive.
I guess it depends on if you have Exodar in hand. Right, because if you have Exodar in hand, you want to get all the starship pieces back, and then do the cheap launch for that. Like that might be the difference.
I'm sure we'll start with running Exodar. I don't know if we'll keep running Exodar though, because so looking at like the Paladin starship piece, because these were not starship classes before, so they don't have a class starship piece yet. They're just getting one from this mini set. The Paladin one, Ultra Capacitor, 2 mana, 1/1 mech, Battlecry, gain +1/+1 for each other friendly minion, also triggers on launch. Like, I don't know, that doesn't necessarily feel like an Exodar deck thing.
Yeah, maybe not. And I guess we should say that like all 3 of the classes, like the 3 class cards, like one of them is a spell that discounts the starship launch. One of them is a starship piece. One of them is a minion that transforms if you've launched a starship this game. So it's a stronger version of the minion if you've played if you've already launched a starship. So you're also going to be incentivized to launch the starships in order to get the better versions of those minions too.
I like this approach to starships because I think we've seen it be a lot of the starships as they're built now tend to reward, and people tend to play them as like really waiting for a big starship launch, and then you get stolen by something and then you're just set. Whereas these are encouraging more smaller launches. I I think that could be interesting. And something like the Paladin, so it has the +1/+1 for each other friendly minion in the starship. It also has Salvage the Bunker, 3 mana spell, summon 2/2 Marines with taunt. Your next starship launch costs 2 less. So you could like launch the Ultra Capacitor on that turn where you have a couple extra Marines with taunt. And then Hellion is the one that transforms. It's normally just a 4 mana 4/4 mech with your other minions have +1 attack. But if you have launched a starship this game, it now says your other minions have +2 attack and rush. And it's a Hellbat.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, I'm actually imagining a Paladin deck that's like Breakfast Paladin again. Because this is Shaw, right? Your other minions have rush. Except it's Shaw.
Houndmaster Shaw, yeah.
Houndmaster Shaw, yeah. With the +2 attack means any eggs that you haven't buffed just can attack. They get the 2 attacks so that the eggs can attack, and then the thing that summons out of the egg can attack. Like, it's very silly.
And then you throw auras into the mix, and yeah, it gets real nuts real fast.
Yeah, Crusader Aura. Maybe we're seeing that again. I was
Crusader
playing
Aura,
around.
Deputization Aura could be really good for just healing to full. Like, yeah.
I had wanted something to work with this expansion with the Adaptive Amalgam, with Boogie Down and mech pieces magnetizing to it, and then you sort of tutor it again. I don't know if we're going like full Adaptive Amalgam necessarily, but some sort of mech. There are like mech hand buff cards that we have. There's like that 2/3 that when it attacks, it buffs things. There's things that will buff things further when they get magnetized, stuff like that. There's the magnetic mech that summons a bunch of 1/1s when as a death rattle is actually more useful if you have things that care about each other friendly minion. Like maybe we have some sort of mech swarm shaman. Not shaman, paladin finally. I'm just so used to saying shaman after the word swarm.
Yeah.
You might have a swarm shaman too, but if that's the case, we might not be playing. Well, I guess they're a Protoss class, right? So they're not.
No, they're Terran.
Oh, they are Terran. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, it's probably not going to be a swarm shaman, but maybe, I don't know.
We should also probably mention Ghost as the final general Terran card. It is a 4 mana 6/2 stealth battle cry. If you're building a starship, destroy the lowest cost card in your opponent's hand.
This is going to make people close the client.
Yeah, like this is something that, if flavor wise, is very, very good, because the ghosts are like the ones that sneak behind enemy lines and call down tactical nuclear strikes in the game. So like this is extremely flavorful. However, at least this is only giving it to 3 classes and not 11, but oh my. Like
it might be giving it mostly, well, warriors in here too. I feel like it is least giving it to Paladin, because I don't think Paladin super cares to do this.
Right.
Except the fact that it's a 6/2 stealth, which I suppose might be relevant in terms of just like if that gets to connect that 6 burn. Yeah. But no, the big one I'm looking at is the Shudderwalk class Shaman, because there's a world where you're like, this stuff is cute, but we're doing control starships and we are just doing it to shudder Ghost and make the opponent hate life, because there aren't a lot of ways of doing this to your opponent's hand. It's all of them make people miserable.
It is the lowest cost card.
I mean, if you do it enough times, then that doesn't really matter anymore.
Well, most WinCon cards, right, are expensive.
Sure.
I don't know about that. Like the drink, the Mage Druid drink that I've already blocked out of my head for some reason.
But that already isn't a...
I mean, it's not anymore, right? But it has been.
The thing is, like, there sometimes are, and there's also the thing of, like, if you get them to use most of their removal, which are probably the cheaper cards, then, like, you could be hitting the right stuff.
If you do it enough, yeah.
if they only have 4 cards.
This is going to destroy Shadow Steps. I'm fine. This is my favorite card of the set. Never mind. I take back all of my complaints.
That's true. It will preferentially hit the Shadow Steps. It'll hit the, I'm sure not be correct, but I could see people just like not using the coin out of paranoia about this card. Just like the coin is protection about Ghost. Like, I'm sure that's incorrect, but I could see it happening because that would always be the first one to go unless you have Shadow Steps in your hand because you're a rogue.
Like, will it be the best thing to do? Probably not, but there might be times where you're like, you're playing Control Starship Shaman and you go, well, I kind of gotta just hit something good. So you shutter block the Ghost and you blow up. Would it be 3 or 4 cards in their hand?
3.
3.
Right? I mean, unless you then respond with the mini shutter and then do the other one.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Discard 3 cards. Like,
you could already be running Dirty Rat in that deck.
Oh, I'm sure you would.
Well, and we have a Zerg card that we'll get to.
You Dirty Rat first, and then now you can, so you're more likely to hit spells or whatever, depending on what you're trying to get rid of.
Or you Dirty Rat seconds, you get the other stuff out of their hand, and then you try to hit their big expensive thing.
Yeah.
You can choose your order. Speaking of Shaman, Shaman has a card called Lock On, 1 mana, set a minion's health to 1. Your next starship launch costs 2 less. Missile Pod is their starship piece. It is a 2 mana, 1/3 mech. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemies. Also triggers on launch. Obviously works well with Lock On. And then Siege Tank is their transform. Base is a 5 mana, 5/5 mech. Battlecry, deal 10 damage to a random enemy minion. But if you transform it, it is now Siege Tank deployed. Deal 10 damage to a random enemy minion. Excess damage hits the enemy hero.
Yeah. And again, I will point out some of the StarCraft flavor when we have it. Like the Siege Tanks would be moving around and would basically be like mostly useless if they were mobile, except then they would plant themselves and then they would turn into like a ballista. And that's when they would do all the damage. So that's really cool that they figured out a way to make that transformed version, like do the scary thing. But I guess if we're going to keep it the flavor right, then the regular version shouldn't be doing that much damage to a minion. But, I guess it's scarier if it's hitting face.
No, I think it makes sense. Like, yeah, it's a bunch of damage to a minion, but the minion's not what you want to hit. You want to hit their base, right?
Yeah.
The structures.
Yeah.
Does not work how you want with Shutter Block, which makes sense, but I was like slightly sad to hear that you can't.
Because it's all targeting the same minion and that minion's just not there anymore, or?
No, I mean like you you can hit, I think it would do 3 different minions.
Your target? Oh, it's random. Yeah, no, sorry, it's random. So yeah, so it would do three other minions and then it wouldn't. It's like you would want it to target, and then if it's gone, then it would just do 10 damage face. Yeah.
I more mean like I wanted it to work if they had 3 minions that were low health, you could, I don't know, 25 them or something, but it would not hurt their face.
Right. Because Shutter Block, they're immune.
Oh, because it can't do the face damage, yeah.
Because it can't do face damage, yeah. The thing we often forget about Shutter Block, it cannot do face damage. So before you get too excited, I mean, they even fixed that with Calamos, depending on whether you think that's fixed or not. But
no, I think it worked correctly.
So, but it's more intuitive, I suppose, at least. If it's a Battlecry and it's doing face damage and it's with Shutter Block, never mind, no, it's not.
I suppose if you mean fixed in terms of corrected as opposed to fixed in terms of neutered, then yes.
Yes. So I am not quite sure exactly what type of Shaman is using this, but definitely the Siege Tank does seem powerful. Maybe it's just still a somewhat aggressive deck, but then that's just your like damage over the top.
Yeah. I mean, if you're paying 5 mana to just hit a random enemy minion, I think that you're probably just like, okay, I'm just going to try to hit base with this, right? Like, I think you definitely want to have a starship.
You definitely want
launched.
it to be deployed. Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But you're not making a huge starship necessarily. And then you can use something like Lock On. If they only have 1 minion, you use Lock On. You make sure you do 9 damage face.
Yeah, or you can hex things or whatever, and that's also an option. If you're hexing something, you make it a 0/1 and then you play this, right? Like it's a lot of mana, but it's doable. Like there are things you can do there.
And lastly, we have Warrior, which is maybe the most exciting one here, I think. So this has concussive shells, 1 mana, deal 2 damage, and gain 2 armor. Your next starship launch costs 1 less.
2 less.
Costs 2 less, thank you. We have Yamato Cannon is the starship piece, 4 mana, 3/3 mech. Battlecry, destroy a random enemy minion, also triggers on launch. And Thor is their transforming minion. So it is an 8 mana, 8/8 mech base. It says Battlecry deal 5 damage, but if you have played a starship, it turns into Thor explosive payload. It deals 5 damage and then repeats at a random enemy for each starship you've launched this game. And that can go face, and that can just continue to go face, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very silly.
Also, note that the first deal 5 damage is targeted. Still.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas Raynor, it kind of doesn't matter the quantity of starships you've launched. He launches them all, and it's unlikely that will be, like, gonna fill your board. Thor is where you're really incentivized in Warrior to do many small launches.
Yeah. And maybe, I don't know, magnetize to them or something, the small launches to make them a little better. And then you don't really care that much about the pieces in them even. You care about Thor just being an absolute beast when he comes down.
Yeah.
Note one thing, actually, if from all these transform ones are battle cries, so I think it's, except for Hellion, I suppose. It transforms in your hand, not on the board. So if you have that Paladin, your other minions have +1 attack, and then you launch the starship, it doesn't transform. But it will transform in your hand or your deck. It will also transform in your deck. So
if you have it on board after you and then you launch a starship for the first time, it's only going to transform in your heart.
Correct. But it transforms everywhere else, hand or deck. And that at least is when Hat was checking it, what it looked like. So keep that in mind. It doesn't, for Siege Tank and Thor, you're playing it for the battle cry, right? That's what you care about for the transform, so it doesn't really matter. But for Hellion, it does matter. I'm going to, of course, we already had people in the Discord theory crafting mech warriors. Because that's a lot of damage as well. You can, so Thor is a mech himself, so you can part scrapper him, for example.
Oh yeah.
You can recommend deck him. All of the mech cards work with Thor.
And if the battle cruiser is a mech, then theoretically, the death rattle trigger a mech's death rattle cards will work, right? So you could get the armor off of that.
Although, right, it's just armor. There aren't any other death rattles that will exist for these, right? Because because
you only have these in the neutrals, which are just the Arcanite Defense Crystal and the Divine Shield one, I guess.
Although, I mean,
right. Liberator, Raven, Banshee, Medevac,
none of those are death rattles
stuff.
But we do have something like Part Scrapper to potentially make Thor cheaper.
Yeah, that's the big one, I think.
That is the big mech synergy there, I think.
I guess you could recommend deck them on a Yamato cannon, just to get more of them in the starship, or maybe if you high roll on a particular.
I mean, how many of those do you need? Right, you're already playing 2, and then you're gonna relaunch them anyway, right? So
really, I think it would be more if you get Banshee or Liberator. I feel like those are the ones that a lot of times, if you're doing a go face kind of thing, you're gonna want more of those. It might not be worth running recommend deck them for, but I could see.
Maybe you're doing it for the launched starship because they have those effects with the 2/1s if you're playing those parts, and then Jim Raynor will relaunch the copy as well.
Yeah, it's probably not worth it, but it might be worth considering at least initially.
Actually, will Raynor just says every starship you launch this game, not ones that died. So actually, Raynor will not relaunch the copy. Yeah, and maybe you're not doing so much rezzing because the pieces are all mechs too, right? So you don't want to be like resurrecting a bunch of like mechs when the pieces are mechs. Although if you're resurrecting like taunts, it doesn't matter. I don't know whether we have enough room in this deck to like also be running like Ziliax and the testing dummy or safety expert, whichever one it is.
But we're probably running Hydration Station. We're not necessarily so that Raynor can launch it again, but because I don't think he would. But I mean, if we're making a lot of big starships and we're giving them Arcanite defense crystals, we're probably running Hydration Station in that deck.
Yeah. Oh, also, point, you can play Ceaseless first and then Thor.
It's true. Yep.
You sure can.
All
Unless
right,
they have Reborn, it's going face.
Moving on to Protoss.
Yeah. On that note, all right, so Protoss is Druid, Rogue, Mage, and Priest. So Wicked is very conflicted about this.
I don't like Rogue, but I don't like Rogue getting any cards, let alone ones that it has access to Priest.
Well, I'm not sure they did. So
So our hero for Protoss is Artanis, also 7 mana, 5 armor, of course. Battlecry, summon 2 3/4 zealots with charge. Your Protoss minions cost 2 less this game. So your Protoss blank costs less this game is like a huge theme of all the cards in Protoss in this set. And this is not the only one with 3/4 zealots with charge. And then, of course, your hero power when you are Artanis is Twin Blades, 2 mana, give a friendly minion and your hero +1 attack this turn, and Divine Shield.
Is very good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
I don't know if you've tried Alakir, the hero, but giving yourself attack and Divine Shield is great. It's a great feeling.
Divine Brew is pretty good on your face.
Yeah.
So, yeah, getting a Divine Brew every turn and buffing a creature, a minion, and giving that minion Divine Shield so it can trade for free. And I mean, Priest is getting this, so you're going to be trading at least in some of these. So, you know, that's pretty good. Like, I was kind of unimpressed with it at first. Like, why does Priest want this? And it's like, oh no, you're giving your hero Divine Shield. That's like, it's like you read it. And I think someone in Discord said today or yesterday, like, you read that hero power and it's like, you're very unimpressed until you get to the last 2 words. And it's like, oh wow, this is awesome. So,
plus, if you're playing a board-based deck, the Divine Shield protects your minion.
yeah,
You know, it's very helpful for protecting your board. So,
yeah,
and you can do that to lots of different minions over time. So it seems, and 2 3/4 zealots with charge, like this can also be the top end of a more aggressive deck.
Yeah, and you're not actually giving up the ping of the other 3 classes hero powers with this because you're still getting a ping. Like you still have like the Druid transform. You just you get Divine Shield along with it. Like Mage still gets to ping something. There just has to not be a taunt in front of it. And Rogue doesn't have to. They have to pay it every turn instead of every other turn. But if they have a weapon, then they get to improve it.
Yeah.
So some of the other Protoss sort of general faction cards are also about reducing costs of other Protoss cards. So there is a 4 mana location with 3 durability called Warp Gate that says your next Protoss minion costs 3 less, and that's again not this turn.
And it has 3 activations also.
And it has 3 activations. Photon Cannon is a 2 mana spell, deal 3 damage. If this kills a minion, your Protoss minions cost 1 less this game. So from now on, your Protoss minions cost 1 less. We have Chrono Boost, 4 mana spell, draw 2 Protoss cards, summon a 3/4 zealot with charge.
We'll come back to this one.
We'll come back to Chrono Boost. And Void Ray, 3 mana, 3/1 mech, Rush Divine Shield, Battle Cry. If this costs 0, gain +2/+2. So it would be a 5/3 Rush Divine Shield mech for 3 mana.
So basically, if you're playing it off the Warp Gate effectively, then you get to make a 5/3.
Those are made to play together.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. I don't know that that's really what you want to target because each one of these classes has a ginormous minion that also costs 12.
Except Rogue. We'll get back to Rogue. But
well, Rogue does too. It's just in 2 pieces. So
you get to Warp Gate 3 times though, right? So you can do the first one on the Void Ray to keep yourself alive, and then do the later one on your big thing.
Yeah,
that's true. So for Druid, for example, their big minion carrier is a 12 mana, 2/14 mech. At the end of your turn, summon 4 4/1 interceptors that attack random enemies.
the flavor on this is Chef's Kiss. This is absolutely amazing because that's exactly what the carrier would do in StarCraft. It would just be a big starship that would have all these little ones flying around it, and those would be the things that would actually do the attacking. And that is just absolutely perfect flavor.
And like, that's 16 damage to random enemies, but still. And if it goes face, then you still have a 4/1 left over.
It says enemies, not minions. So those can go face.
Yep.
Ceaseless, still a card.
I'm very displeased. This is also the class that can just pay the 12.
They could also play
do that.
Construct Pylons, which is prep, but for Protoss cards. 0 mana, your next Protoss card this turn costs 2 less.
Or it's old school Innervate if you want to be really specific. But
I'm like both pleased and annoyed that this is only available to the Druids.
It's kind of a whiff, honestly. Like, I mean, yeah, you can play it and they probably will, but also like they're not getting anything else to do. Like they're doing, they're getting something to do that they already can do a lot of, and they also already have all the ramp in the world as it is. So they're the class that at least needs to be able to discount the Protoss cards.
Yeah.
Right. So like,
it does feel like an odd class to give Construct Pylons to.
It feels like the perfect class to give Construct Pylons to because they don't need more ramp and they don't need more things to do that cost 1 million mana. So
I don't know.
That's fine.
It could still be kind of spooky. We'll see. I hope it doesn't make the cut because I remember old Innervate. It was a lot.
Yeah.
It makes things faster. I mean, like, it makes it so you can get Artanis down on 5, for example.
Yeah. Yes.
Or earlier if you've ramped. You can get Artanis down on 4.
If you've
ramped on 3.
If. Okay. There's an if.
Yeah.
That doesn't have... There's... When you've ramped, I think is what you meant to say.
There's 4 ramp on 3 cards, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah, then that leaves the last one, which might be Hydration Station. Might not. Maybe you
it's not as good if you're hydrated. It's not as good off of Hydration Station, honestly. Not bad, but it's not great.
Still a 5/8 Divine Shield Taunt.
Yeah.
That's a 7 mana, 5/8 Divine Shield Taunt mech battlecry. Spend 4 mana to double this minion's stats.
This is the Immortal.
The Immortal.
That's a 11 mana 10/16 Divine Shield Taunt mech.
It sure is. Yep.
Or less. Because you have a lot of different ways to discount it. Like not only Warpgate.
Yeah. 11 mana MSRP. The costs on these cards are kind of like the list prices at Kohl's. Like they exist to give you a comparison, but you're never paying full price for any of these. So
they exist to make you feel like you're getting a deal.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, I mean, if you play Artanis on 4 here, right? Because you ramped to 5 mana and then you played Construct Pylons and then you played Artanis. Now all of your Protoss minions cost 2 less anyway. And then you add something like Warp Gate to it, or Photon Cannon.
I could see a world where Druid actually says, we don't need construct additional pylons or Warp Gate or Photon Cannon. We just like targeted draw. So we do the usual ramp shenanigans and then use Chrono Boost to draw Artanis and Carrier. Right? So you Artanis, use the 3/4s to help clean up board a little bit, and then do your ramp 3 crystals to get to Carrier.
I guess it is worth pointing out, right, that most of these cards, except for Construct Pylons, specify Protoss minion. Construct Pylons is the only one that says Protoss card. And there are only 5 Protoss cards in a deck that the Druid, or 6, I guess, because you can put 2 copies of each. Because Artanis is not a minion, Artanis is a hero, right? So you can't actually use anything other than Construct Pylons to discount Artanis. So all of these cards that say your next Protoss minion cost X less are only good for 6 cards out of the 30, unless you're somehow getting additional copies of them in Druid. We'll get to the other classes in a minute, where that's less of a restriction. But here, I think that is relevant. So these aren't even that scary
Yeah.
all things considered. And the only thing that Construct Pylons does is it lets you discount the spells in Artanis, right? Which, I mean, Artanis is relevant. The spells, okay.
Yeah, that's a card that you could draw your deck in the wrong order and then just be sitting there with Construct Pylons in your hand and be like, well, this is not helpful.
Right, yeah.
I think because of that, you definitely do want to run Chrono Boost, even if you have a slightly larger package, just because it's only useful for discounting this set. And so you really need to draw this set. Yeah. So Chrono Boost helps with that.
Yeah, I am very glad that they gave each faction a draw 2 faction cards.
Yeah, and even in the worst case, it's a 4-mana summon a 3/4 with charge. You often will just pay 4 mana for a 3/4 with charge anyway. So that's not terrible.
Especially if you're Druid.
It's not what you want. You don't want it to just be 4 mana. You want it to be 4 mana, draw 2, summon a 3/4 with charge. But, if it's just 4 mana, summon a 3/4 with charge, that's not the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, it's not completely useless if you already drew your Protoss cards. Yeah. Well, Mage also has a big 12 mana card. Colossus is a 9/4 mech. Battlecry, deal 1 damage to all enemies twice, improved by Protoss spells you cast this game.
I'm so happy.
And that goes face also.
It sure does. Yeah. Mage is going to have, I think, the most trouble playing their 12 cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they don't have anything else that discounts the Colossus. They have Shield Battery, gain 6 armor, your next Protoss spell costs 2 less. And Resonance Coil, 3 mana, deal 5 damage to a minion, get a random Protoss spell.
Yeah, which helps with making the Colossus do more damage. And I mean, the Protoss spells, for the most part, will also, most of them will help you cast the Colossus.
Yeah, I guess it's an extremely small pool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Construct Pylons, Photon Cannon, both of which will help you discount. The aforementioned Resonance Coil and Shield Battery, and then Hallucination, which we'll get to from Priest, and Blink from
and Chrono Boost.
Rogue.
And Chrono Boost. So it'll either help you draw or discount your Colossus, except for Hallucination.
Yeah. Now, I believe that the Mage location tide pool thing, I think you can discover Shield Battery and Resonance Coil.
You can, as long as you have Protoss cards in your deck. That was what the change that they mentioned in the bug fixes. So as long as you have at least 1 Protoss card in your deck, then those will be available to you.
So, I mean, that could potentially be quite nice for I mean, it's not super high odds right now that you'll get extra copies, but come rotation, it'll be really good odds to get extra copies of Resonance Coil and Shield Battery. And of course, if you get an extra Resonance Coil, that's an extra other Protoss spell. So you could end up casting a bunch of these.
And I do like how, this gives us a little bit more of that slower big burst of damage Mage, because all of both Shield Battery and Resonance Coil are trying to help you survive while you get to your Colossus. And then, but it's hard to get the Colossus to do 30 on 5 or something,
Yeah, you're not.
So
that's gonna be an end game, and you're only getting 2 of them. None of those are legend. None of these 12 mana minions are legendary. So you'll still be able to get 2 of them. But yeah, I mean, the only legendaries I think are the hero cards and Grunty in this set, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Yeah. So
yes. But I am excited to see. Hopefully, we get something out of this with Mage. A slightly slower Mage that's not a big spell Mage. I am here for it, and give us. And Mage has a lot of small spells that are good for keeping you alive. The drink now is really good for this potentially because it just clears boards really efficiently. All right, Priest.
Well, why don't we do Rogue first?
Do Rogue first.
This is the only time you will literally ever hear me say this, but I think you need to hear all the rest of the classes before you get to Priest.
That's true, actually.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So Rogue has this Archon theme. So there are 2 minions that if you play 2 of them, they merge into an Archon. So
which was a mechanic from StarCraft. So you would get a Dark Templar and a High Templar, and you would merge them into an Archon. So that is very cool flavor-wise.
Yes, and it can be yeah, you can have like one of each, or I assume like two of the same, as long as you have two Templars. So the Dark Templar is a 6 mana 5/3 stealth battlecry, destroy an enemy minion. And the High Templar is a 6 mana 3/5 battlecry, deal 2 damage to all enemies. And if you play two of them, you do have to play them, not summon them. They will merge into an Archon, which is an 8 mana 8/8. At the end of your turn, deal 8 damage to the enemy hero and 2 damage to their minions.
So that is powerful. And Protoss cards are all built around discounting their stuff. You will be able to get these down lower. I don't know if that's like it's very strong. I don't know if that's strong enough to build a rogue deck around.
Yeah.
You've got Blink, 2 mana spell, draw a Protoss minion combo. It costs 2 less. That's definitely good for making this happen. I feel like if this is a thing, the mini game that Rogue plays is, how do I make these cost 1? And then Sonya.
Yeah. Well, there was a fairly unhinged Reddit post that I saw yesterday that was like, I posted in the Discord with the disclaimer, even I don't hate Rogue enough to make this post. But because it was like it looked like the gif of Charlie from Always Sunny in Philadelphia in front of the murder board. Like, I mean, every Reddit post eventually looks like that, but this one was especially that much. So it was, you blink and then Warp Gate to get a 1 mana High Templar, because blink discounts by 2 and Warp Gate discounts by 3. You do those and you get a High Templar, and then you play High Templar and Sonya, and then you get an Archon, and then you play Sandbox Scoundrel and a 1 mana Cover Artist to get 2 more Archons.
There it is.
And sure,
that's not 30 damage. I'm sorry.
It's still 24 damage at the end of the day. Yes.
Like, yes.
I mean, you'll have 3-4 charges. You'll get the other 6 damage eventually. But yeah.
Sure. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's not, if you are not doing 30 damage with your combo to start with, I'm just not that scared. Right?
And even 30 isn't really enough.
Unless the rest of the deck is like an inherently aggressive thing, which I don't know how you could be if you're doing all that, right? Like, I
mean, maybe you're turbo drawing an Incendiasing somehow.
But
I don't know why that's not better than just Cycle Rogue,
Yeah. So these are interesting, and like maybe there's enough discounts that you can just kind of throw them into something and it happens sometimes. But I feel like this might just be a skip for Rogue, or we run Artanis, and you just play Weapon Rogue Artanis and kill people that way.
Yeah.
Because Artanis summons 2, 3, 4 charges and then gives you Divine Shield and an extra attack and like a hero power you can use after you've already made a big weapon. So.
And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for Rogue to get a flavor win that's a mechanical fail, right? Like usually they're on the other end of that spectrum. So if they're benefiting, if this is the one time that it's not a bank error in their favor, then I think that's probably okay, given everything else that Rogue has access to right now. Yeah. I would imagine that given all the other things that Rogue has, including Sonya, right? Like even in design, I would expect that they knew that they were kind of design limited by Sonya to some extent, and everything else that Rogue has. Like that's why this is not like a battle cry, right? Because then you just start bouncing the Archon, even if it costs you another 6. Like whatever, you've got Protoss discounts. So I'm sure that if it was a battle cry and not an end of turn effect, that would get out of hand very quickly. So yeah, it's fine.
I feel like it's more likely we'll be stepping the Zealots that are 3 mana, 3/4 charges.
Yeah.
And then doing Sonya
Oh,
play
yeah.
a 1-cost zealot for a 0-cost
Sure
zealot.
are. Yep. And Sonya still discounts minions. So, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Why not? Little Leroy's. Why not? Okay. That's fine.
So
Maybe you skip those as the rogue, but that's okay because Priest can play them.
So Priest has its own 12 mana card, Mothership. This one's an epic. 12 mana, 10/10 mech, taunt, battlecry, and death rattle. Get 2 random Protoss minions. Now, the first reaction that most of us has was, what are we doing with these 2 random Protoss minions?
I went on quite a journey as a Priest main with this. Because I was like, what are we doing? First of all, I saw the 12 before I saw all the discounters. So I'm like, well, why does this cost 12? And I saw the discounts, but it's like, oh, what the hell are we doing? Like, why do we need to give Priest this? And then you start doing the math. And you start looking at how many Protoss minions there are. There are 8 of them. One of them is Mothership, which it can't generate itself. So there are 7. And a few of those are bangers. because Colossus is one of them, Carrier's one of them, and the 2 Templars are 2 of them. So you are very likely to just get damage in chunks with Mothership. And you can also play the hallucination to get a copy of it, and you don't really care if it takes double damage because you want it to die.
Yeah,
to
so
give you more
hallucination,
Protoss minions. Yeah.
It is a 1 mana, summon a copy of a friendly Protoss minion. It takes double damage. You could do that on the Mothership to get more. You could do that on the Archon that you got from the Templars that you got from the Mothership. You could do that on the Carrier that you got from the Mothership. Because those are both end of turns effects.
That's probably less good because you run out of board space, but yeah.
That's true. Board space is a bit of an issue for that. Yeah. But you can definitely do it with Archons.
I guess if they go one at a time, yeah.
If they have stuff and the things die hitting their stuff, then the second one would get to summon its own.
Yeah.
So situationally,
it's not terrible.
It could be okay.
But it can definitely get you more of them. You also have your own Protoss minions cost 1 less this game, which is very important for the Priest because they're getting so many different ones. So that's a Sentry, 2 mana, 2/2 mech, lifesteal, death rattle. Protoss minions cost 1 less this game. And someone pointed out this was the one that the MS paint job was not very good, so it did look like the crazy person at the whiteboard. But basically, you use Ceaseless Expanse and a Zealot from Chrono Boost. So first Ceaseless Expanse, then the Zealot from Chrono Boost. Then you use Vol'jin to switch their attack. So now you have a 15/15 charge. And then you Hallucination the Zealot, because it is technically a Protoss minion. And you can have up to 2 hallucinations, so you can have up to 45 damage this way. So this is the thing that you can do.
Yep. Yeah, I actually am kind of most convinced at the Priest line here.
Yeah.
Like, it all works great together, gets to take advantage of the best things from the other ones, which are the big, the minions. Certainly it seems like the one that will most use Warp Gate because you'll actually be able to use all the charges.
Yeah.
And, Chrono Boost just makes all of these things so much more playable, right? Because you can tutor out your Protoss cards.
Yeah. Plus you have access to Power Word Synchronize, plus you have access to Creation Protocol. So you can get more of them, plus Hallucination.
Plus maybe even the Resurrect Spellstone.
Yeah,
Maybe. Oh, or Raden. Because you're
Raden.
Playing all those are all going to be minions that didn't start in your deck. So Raden could be a thing also. We also didn't mention Sentry, which is the other card that's going to help a lot with this because it's a 2 mana 2/2 lifesteal. With Death Rattle, your Protoss minions cost 1 less this game. So not only is because like just the your next Protoss minion isn't going to help here, right? Like you're going to need the proton cannons to hit, and then you also are going to need the sentries to discount these things so you can swarm the board once you get the motherships to stick.
And you're definitely playing Artanis, yeah. And the mothership is just a big minion on its own, and it does have taunt, so they do have to kill it.
Like, I could see a world where we're running Cube,
Sure.
Kraken, like
yeah. Maybe we're even running Cover Artist if we're really feeling spicy.
You could run, like Saloon Brewmaster for when you happen to hit the Colossus, or if you don't have that, then you do it on, I think that's less likely because we have so many other copy effects, but we're definitely running Power Word Synchronize, I think.
We're running Puppet Theater so we can get our opponent's Protoss minions, maybe. Like,
there's just more options that can fit in a deck. So, lots of ways to copy and get more of them. And if with so many rolls, like, you're going to get 2 Dark Templars or High Templars.
Yeah.
Like, you have 2 rolls to get that. So 2 out of 7 twice is not that hard when you're doing this many rolls.
Right. Because you can get 2 of the same Templar. You can get 1 of each. So.
And even if you do hit things like Sentry, you don't feel too bad because it just helps you play everything else.
It's just going to it's just going to discount everything a little bit more. Like the Void Ray might be the low roll, right? That you might be upset about that, or maybe Immortal, because you may not have the mana to pay for that and the extra 4 mana when you're trying to swarm the board. But even then, like a 5/8 Taunt Divine Shield is not terrible.
Priest kind of gets the most discounts, right? The permanent discounts, right? Because of the sentries, right? So you've got 2 sentries, 2 photon cannons, and then Artanis.
Yeah, you just might not want to spend the 4 mana on that. You might want to be getting other stuff down instead of putting everything into one big thing.
Yeah. But I mean, that tells you what it's like if we're like, oh yeah, a Taunt Divine Shield 5/8 that's discounted. We don't really want that. We're like,
I don't really want a 10/16 Taunt Divine Shield. I want better stuff than that. Yeah, that's first world problems right there for sure. So,
but all of this is assuming you can survive the Zerg onslaught.
This is very true. So, even as someone who hasn't really played StarCraft, the Zerg are in just the cultural zeitgeist, and they really captured this. Although I will say, people in the Discord, we haven't seen, as we're recording this, the Warlock cards have not been revealed quite yet, and there is no Broodmother in them. I'm sorry, but we do have a lot of other cool Zerg things, including Sarah Kerrigan, Queen of Blades. She is a 7 mana hero. They're all 7 mana. Battlecry, summon 2/5 Brood Queens, deal 3 damage to all enemies. The Brood Queen is a collectible card. 3 mana, 2/5 at the end of your turn. Get a larva that transforms into random Zerg minions.
That goes to your hands,
just
right? Not the board.
What?
The hero power. Where even is her hero power? Because she has everything on the... hold on.
It does 3 damage split amongst enemies and upgrades for each Zerg minion you have in play.
Oh, also Sing Along Buddy is a card still in standard.
Yeah, it sure is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking on the card library, the name of the hero power is Ravage because it just has every Zerg card is a related card for Kerrigan. But the name of the hero power is Ravage. But yeah, so if you have a full board of Zerg, then this does 10 damage. This is half a Denathrius for 2 mana as a hero power.
And she summons 2/5 Brood Queens herself, which even if you play that on 7, like that's 10 health on the board that could stick.
I mean, it's very on brand that Kerrigan is the strongest of the heroes who are all already strong heroes. Like, Raynor, situationally, that can be a game-ending, very, very powerful battle cry, right? Resummoning or relaunching the ships. Artanis, same thing. They are charge. That's very good, but a lot of what you're doing is for that persistent discount over the course of the game. Kerrigan is just like, this is going to be your top end because you're Zerg. And it deals 3 damage to all enemies, so you get to flip the board. Oh, while summoning 2 Brood Queens, 3 mana 2/5s that at the end of your turn give you that larva. Like, it is face damage. It is a board flip, and it is value. It's just like, while improving your hero power for more probably face damage. It's so insane.
And yeah, your hero power is a jungle gym that starts at 3 and doesn't take up a board space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yes, it's only the Zerg minions, but they're good at swarming. That's their whole thing. That's their whole deal. So for example, Zergling, a 1-mana 1/1 battlecry, summon a copy of this. When you combine that with other, that just gives you 2 right there, right? It might be free if you pulled it with Nidus Worm, a 3-mana spell, draw 2 Zerg cards, they cost 1 less.
Mm-hmm.
Spawning Pool is a location with 2 durability for 1 mana. Get a 1/1 Zergling to your hand. Death Rattle, your Zerg minions have rushed this turn. So if you time that well, you can have a whole board of rushers, and the 1/1 Zergling to your hand feels like a bummer, but you can line it up then better with things like Kerrigan.
Plus it has the battle cry, so it's also giving you a copy of it. So you're getting 2 1/1s for 1 mana with that. It's not just like,
right.
Which is also in StarCraft, whenever you summon Zerglings, you would always summon them. You would always build them in pairs. So whenever you bought them, you would just get 2 of them together. So, again, flavor.
So it's very flavorful.
Yeah.
And then pretty much every class has things that work with having lots of Zergs.
Yeah. I mean, before we even get to the new stuff, right? Hunter can tourist into warrior and get couple muscle. So that could be very potent to onto couple muscle a Zergling, and you've got 2 3/2s.
You can also just still run Ziliax. That's still allowed.
Yeah. I mean, that's fine. But I'm saying taking advantage of that battle cry to double up hand buffs is
that's good too.
Yeah, there's a lot of buffs in hand buffs in Hunter if they tore into warrior.
Party animal won't work because these don't have a minion type.
Right.
Yeah. They are Zerg minions because they're part of that faction, but it's not at the bottom of the card as a type like Draenei.
You could do that one totem. I don't know that you should, but you could.
Stereo totem?
Gives +2/+2 to something in your hand.
Probably not, but you could. But we do have, for example, in Death Knight, Infester is a 3-mana 3/2. Death Rattle, your Zerg minions have +1/+1 for the rest of the game. And someone pointed out, this works like automatons. So with Reborn, they don't have 1 health. They have 2 or more if you had more Infestors.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be so gross.
Yeah, and you have the location that gives it Reborn, and you have Brittlebone Buccaneer. And so you can make them real big.
And there's that Alchemy Death Speaker. After another friendly minion is reborn, summon a copy of it. It's a 1-mana 1/3 that no one has ever played except for our Frost Booter enthusiast in the Discord. And there's also Viper, new card, 4-mana 5/3 battle cry. Summon a minion from your opponent's hand. Your other Zerg minions gain reborn and attack it.
Gross. You do all your attacks faced, and then you Viper.
Yeah.
Amazing. And for a Death Knight, that also means more corpses. So.
Yep, and that doesn't just hit the lowest cost thing. So, yeah. You can't play this with the other Terran one that hits low because they're not the same faction.
Right. Yeah.
Good. Yes.
I mean, yeah, you wouldn't want to because then you would have to do starships, and that's just unnecessary. But yeah.
Well, you would want to because then you get the low cost minions out of their hand, and then you make sure you're hitting a high cost minion with the Viper. But again, it's not something you can do.
No, because you're just gonna kill them.
Listen, this is Death Knight. Death Knight sometimes gets there in a very roundabout way.
So I would have thought that maybe you don't do Brittlebone Buccaneer because you need a bunch of death rattles for that. But Baneling Barrage says, it's a 1-mana spell. Get a 1/1 Baneling that explodes. If you control a Zerg minion, get another Baneling. And they're death rattles.
And they deal damage.
Yeah. Go ahead.
it says deal damage equal to this minion's attack to all enemy minions. And so that'll work with Reborn. That'll work with buffs to it.
And if you're buffing the attack, it gets big, and then it does, and then and again, it's at least this one only says minions, and it doesn't go face.
Right. I wonder if this one at one point said all enemies, and then they realized, oh no, that's that's too much. Because I mean, you think about it, if you hit the curve, right? So you go Brittlebone Buccaneer into Infestor. That means Infestor is dying twice, giving your Zerg minions for the rest of the game +2/+2. Your Banelings are 3/3s. Like,
it does mean that Kerrigan's damage to all enemies is more likely to go face after you've cleared their board with your Banelings.
It's very true. Yeah. Well, and you've also got Yelling Yodeler, right, for both Hunter and Death Knight, where you can proc Death Rattles twice, so you can do that for a board clear. You, of course, can also do that on Infestor.
I mean, if you have Banelings, then the Viper is going to clear bigger things from hand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
That's effectively double damage from each Baneling. Silly. So,
and of note is, like, since all of them have access to Brood Queen, they all have a way to, like, potentially get Zerg minions from the other classes that are Zerg classes.
Yeah, and that helps with the, I think having things like Spawning Pool and Brood Queen was important for Zerg because it's a mini set, so there's not that many cards. But Zerg, you need a big critical mass of Zerg for it to be Zerg. So it seems like they did a good job with that in terms of there's lots of ways to get them, even though there aren't that many different cards. And because there's not that many different cards, like the quality for something like Brood Queen and the consistency for something like Brood Queen is pretty high.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of the other classes, we have Demon Hunter. It has the one that I thought was most interesting here was Mutalisk, 4 mana, 5/2. It says also damages minions next to whomever this attacks and the enemy hero if a neighbor is missing. Now, to clarify everyone's first question, what if 2 neighbors are missing? It does not deal 10. It's still
That it deals damage. It damages to 2 enemy heroes. That's what it does.
It's just that there's a flag that says, is there a neighbor missing or not? It doesn't care how many neighbors are missing. So if there's 3 minions, it will deal its attack to the 3 minions that it hits. If there's 2 or 1, it will deal its attack to those minions and then also hit its attack face.
That's going to be so gross.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, it does not have Rush by itself, so you do need to give it Rush. There are lots of ways to give it Rush. So there's the Spawning Pool. There is through Fell and Flames, and there's also the new spell Creep Tumor. 2 mana, your Zerg minions have +1 attack and Rush lasts 3 turns. So you can set that up ahead of time because it lasts 3 turns.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One important thing with Spawning Pool also is that the when you proc the Death Rattle, that is true for the rest of the turn. So even if you play a Zerg minion after you break the Spawning Pool, that will still get Rush.
Right.
So
yeah,
it's
like
not
an aura. Yeah,
it's not like when we used to play Animated Broomstick and then the minions had to be on board in order to grant the Rush because that was a battle cry. This says your minions have Rush this turn, so they will get it regardless of when you've played them the turn.
Right. It has to work that way so that you can give Rush to the Zergling and just put in your hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how you get a Zerg Rush. A Zergling Rush.
Yep.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They really nailed it. They've been nailing it on flavor all year, honestly.
Yeah.
But like this
sometimes
is just
too well.
peaked. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bob is a case of too well, right? Yeah. No, this is really peak. Yeah. And then there's Lurker.
So this is a 4-mana 2/6. After a friendly minion attacks, deal 1 damage to a random enemy, or 2 if your minion is a Zerg.
It's a lot of damage.
It is, although something like Wrathscale Naga was because you can't direct it,
Yeah, but Wrathscale Naga, they had to die. This just happens.
This is more like the
on
pirate.
Attack.
This is the pirate.
Yeah. Except the pirate is limited by adjacent.
Right. And this is anything.
This just happened. Like, you have this in play, and your minions do 2 more damage.
Yeah.
And so if they have nothing, it all goes face. And if they don't have nothing, you're pretty happy because you went face with all your minions anyway. And
then also cleared their board.
Yeah, cleared their board or just did more face damage. Like, it's very silly.
Yeah, I think the one fail state would be like if you just pop the spawning pool and then all the pings go into whatever minions are in the way, and then the minions are gone. The rest of the minions can't attack and can't do more damage.
So you can't rush your Mutalisk in for more damage,
right?
Maybe.
Yeah, that would be
because you didn't rush the Mutalisk in first for some reason.
It's a hard knock life, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't rush your Mutalisk in first because you wanted to be able to have it hit face by getting rid of the neighbors first.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. All of these are more damage.
Yep. I mean, that's Demon Hunter. Sometimes.
It sure is. It's taken them a while to get back here, but Demon Hunter gonna get you.
It is important to note that while something like Creep Tumor only works for Zerg minions, Lurker works for any minion, so it does less damage for other minions that are not Zerg, but it will still work for your pirates. Hunter. Hunter has the Hydralisk, 3 mana, 4/2 Battlecry, deal 2 damage to a random enemy, repeat for each other Zerg minion you control. So essentially it does it for itself too.
Iconic creature, the Hydralisk. Yeah.
The art is pretty cool there. I have to say. We also have Roach. The flavor text says these still aren't as bad as the ones in my old apartment complex. It's a 2 mana 2/2. When you draw this, get a copy of it. Battlecry, if you control another Zerg minion, gain +1/+2. And we have Evolution Chamber, 2 mana spell. Give your minions +1 attack. Give your Zerg an extra +1/+1. So your Zerg get +2/+1. And not just this turn.
Yeah. So Zerg Rush is real. It's oof.
Yeah. And you already have access to Bestial Madness in Hunter already. So you can run both of those if you want to.
You can. I don't know if it's worth it because Bestial Madness is not like the Death Rattle thing, the Infestor, right? Like they have to be produced. So Bestial Madness would not buff spawning pool things that you have not gotten yet, or like, you know, larva from Brood Queen.
Well, this is a one-time thing, though. This isn't for the rest of the game. This is just like, whatever's there.
This is just Savage Roar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, this is just 2 mana Savage Roar. If you pour
just
Zerg on the board.
Just 2 mana Savage Roar. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to have a problem getting enough.
Okay.
Zerg.
I think they'll live.
Yeah.
You can have Observer of Mists and like something, and then all your Zerglings get bigger.
For sure.
And then go face.
Yeah. You can also run the Discover package.
Yeah, the Discover package is interesting with Kerrigan, right? But you could play Niall, get what you want, and then override her with Kerrigan later.
Yeah, because it's going to be much later most of the time. And if you're getting Niall that late, you don't really need Niall at that point anyway, because she's probably not going to help you. So I don't think there's as much anti-synergy there as you might think. Not as much as there would be, say, with Headless Horseman. Right?
Right.
Headless Horseman, you might that might be an either or. In Death Knight.
I think so, yeah.
I think definitely, yeah.
But Niall, you could justify running Niall early and then swapping over to Kerrigan late when you've gotten most of the good stuff out of your deck already.
Yeah. Or maybe you just run some of the like discover a minion, like tracking and discover minion things and the
bird watching on a Zergling in your deck. Yes.
Right. So like you're definitely going to want that. Maybe you just don't even do Niall, you just toss the pair of like you get a copy Draenei because they only cost 1 to play, right?
Yeah.
So every once in a while you get to do that with a tracking or a bird watching and be very, very happy.
If you bird watching the Zergling, then all of your Zerglings on the board also get the buff, and any other ones in your hand that you got from spawning pool also get the buff.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a really good hit. But you're happy with a lot of the things off birdwatching or tracking.
Yeah. And I think they did a really good job with the Kerrigan hero power, that it's very powerful, but really only if you're playing Zerg. Like, you could make an argument. You could make an argument for playing it in a non-Zerg deck, but like the hero power is like getting an arcane missiles for a hero power is fine, but it's really kind of a lateral move from the hero powers that are in Zerg, right? Like, it's probably not better than getting like a ghoul or a or getting the one mana hero power attack for Demon Hunter, or just having steady shot, or certainly not better than the Discover hero power.
I mean, it specifically is mostly only better if you're hitting face.
I really like that all of these heroes synergize pretty closely with the factions, so that we probably won't just see them in all 4 classes in every deck from now until the end of the time that they're in standard. Like, because that would just get old really fast.
This is how I would love them to be designing every neutral legendary from here on out, if they can.
So I don't know if that's true. I could definitely see a world where these make it into most decks of these classes. Will try,
but it's I don't.
She does give you 2/5 Brood Queens that then give you 2 other Zerg minions
and a board clear.
So they're probably sticking. So
like a board clear that goes face.
She does give you Zerg minions by herself.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are specific disadvantages for at least these 3 classes, right? Where you're not getting corpses anymore, and this is sometimes a problem with horsemen too. If you're Death Knight, right, you're not getting corpses anymore in exchange for 3 damage.
I mean, yeah. I guess in a Zerg deck you'll get plenty of corpses, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying
if you're not playing a Zerg
in the case
deck.
of not running a Zerg deck, right? In Demon Hunter, you're no longer giving yourself attack and like a way of attacking, and that could be relevant. And in Hunter, you're not getting the guaranteed face damage. That's kind of a lead sacrifice. I guess Warlock, you're not getting cards anymore, but a lot of times an aggressive thing, that might be fine if you're getting face damage. I think the biggest thing is that it's like, yeah, but a lot of times you're just going to be happy with that board clear bit of face damage from the battle cry and the summoning 2/5 Brood Queens. Like,
yeah,
it's just such a swing. Raynor,
I don't think you can play Raynor. Like,
Raynor you have to build around.
Like, you have to have a real reason that you just want to get 4/2 taunts out of your hero power. Like, you have to really hate armor up.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, some people do, but like, I mean, I guess if you're playing like a really aggressive warrior that doesn't care about armoring, maybe that's better, but it's still 7 mana, gain 5 armor, do nothing, change your hero power.
Right.
That's not, because you don't have access to starships if you're not playing Terran.
Artanis is in between because it's kind of the best vanilla hero power.
Yeah.
Right? For anything. And just gives you a couple of charges, which, like, sure. So Artanis is probably the one that kind of is most consistent across the board. Like, this is what you're getting, and if you don't have other heroes, you probably run this one.
But it's not so
Kerrigan, I think the battle cry is just so good that it'll be worth playing in a lot of things.
Yeah, true. That is fair. But at least it's not renoing my whole board.
Yeah. I mean, I could also see Artanis just not necessarily making it into every Protoss deck.
What? You need the minion reduction.
Oh yeah, because because the two minion reduction. So yeah, you would run that. That's the one piece I forgot about, because he does too many things. Yeah.
Yeah. They all do a lot of things.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. Well, lastly, we do have Warlock. So the 3 minions here, the kind of key piece here, I think, is the Ultralisk Cavern. It is a 3 mana, 3 durability location. It says deal 1 damage to all enemies. Death Rattle, summon an 8/8 Ultralisk with Rush.
But that's going to take forever, Mage. So how, like, that's going to take like 5 turns from when you play this 3-mana location. How would we possibly get that Ultralisk out sooner?
Well, we're Zerg, so we consume. With a 1-mana spell called Consume, remove 1 durability from a friendly location to restore 8 health to your hero, because we just consume ourselves to birth the Ultralisk faster out of the cavern. And you also have Spinecrawler, a 2-mana 1/6 taunt that can't attack, but has +3 attack if you control a location.
So this is the one that's not Zerg Rushy.
Correct.
They found a way to give Warlock not aggressive stuff, which I'm kind of disappointed about. I don't know.
It is kind of weird that it's getting like a taunt and like a big 8/8. Right. Though I guess, I mean, Forge of Wills is still legal and standard for a couple more months.
Yeah.
So like either getting Forge of Wills either on the Ultralisk or on the 4/6 can attack, right? To get something that can attack. Like those are both valid things that that you might want to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
8/8 Ultralisk with Rush, like 8/8s are powerful when cheated out early, but you have to do stuff to get it out. And it does have Rush, which is very important, but
you could conceivably get that out as early as turn 4 by playing the Ultralisk Cavern on 3, pressing the button once, and then going consume on 4. Like conceivably, like you have to high roll, but that can happen.
Yeah.
More likely you're doing it on 5, right? So you'd have the Ultralisk Cavern, I mean, which is still pretty early. You play the Ultralisk Cavern on 3, you pop it, you turn 4, you do nothing, turn 5, you press it a second time, and then you consume it, and then you get the 8/8. So that's a more reasonable expectation of when you would get to see the 8/8 out of it, which is not nothing.
And I suppose when you're getting the 8/8, you fronted the cost for it. You're not really paying for it on that turn. So you can still have, like on this scenario of where you consume once on turn 5, you still have 4 other mana to do stuff like play a Forge of Wills.
Yeah. I feel like Warlock will put to the test, like, how aggressive can you really be with just the Zerg cards available to all of them, right? Like, just getting Brood Queen out, getting some Zerglings, because it's just the generated things and the Zerglings that are going to be giving you your aggression here as the Warlock, you know, apart from running your own, like, other non-Zerg stuff.
There is Brood Queen to give you other classes stuff.
And Kerrigan gives you 2 Brood Queens, right? So that's what I mean by, like, you're relying on generating the stuff from the other classes to give to you. Because, these are all pretty defensive.
I mean, there's a world in which you could just play an Ultralisk Cavern in, like, a standalone, a non-Zerg control Warlock, especially because Twisting Nether destroys locations.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I mean, this is a whole lot of setup, but I could see a world. I mean, we'd have to have a much slower meta than we have right now. I'll say that much. But if you do set it up, then you could set it up. You set it up into a Twisting Nether. You pop the Twisting Nether, and that destroys location, which gives you the 8/8.
I mean, it is a good card, sort of ironically, for dealing with swarmy stuff, right? Like doing 1 damage to all enemies. I mean, no, it's not amazing for 3 mana, but you make that investment, and then you have 2 more instances where you can do that. It could be like popping Divine Shields before you do your domino effect or something else. Like, so it could be just setting things up for a defile.
Yeah. Like sometimes you just need that 1 more damage across the board to make a defile work, right? And that would do that. But
so I mean, I don't think that, like, these definitely won't be played, but I'm, like, a little bummed that if you do want to go aggressive for the Warlock, you have to work a little harder. And yeah, I'm curious how it'll play out. Because also Warlock is kind of going into this with no valid decks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, this seems like maybe it's a future slower Warlock that isn't actually super Zerg.
I don't know if we're playing Zerg stuff outside of right now. Outside of the set, right? So I mean, maybe we are. Maybe this gets better with some other stuff.
No, but I mean, if we have any cards here that are played outside of a Zerg deck,
it's Cavern.
It's Cavern, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really need the synergy to work well.
Yeah.
By the way, when I do a search for just a class in the card library, it shows me all of the faction cards. Like, it shows me Kerrigan as a Warlock card when I just search for Warlock cards in the card library. So that suggests to me, we were wondering earlier how that would work. That suggests to me that probably in the client you will see card like Kerrigan as a Warlock card or as a Hunter card or whatever.
Nice.
Don't know that for sure, but that would be nice. I'm looking at like what other locations do we have for the like location synergy? We have Forge of Wills, but that's going to go away.
I mean, Spawning Pool.
Spawning Pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, they didn't get a location because they got a drink from Perils. But yeah, that is all of the cards for the mini set except Grunty. And because it looks like he's not going to be released until Sunday, and we want to give you access to this sooner than he may or may not be revealed by the time we get this ready for you.
Yeah. So we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at concede.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com, except for special moments like this. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com, and write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter and Blue Sky at coinconcede, and if you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. So, Coinconcede, I'm going to Coinconcede to Rise Was Here, who I ran into on ladder, and they friended me afterward. I think I forget if I noticed right away and then accepted later or something, but it's like, I'm pretty sure I've seen the name a bunch. Like, just, you play in Legend, and sometimes you see a lot of the same people. Yeah. And yeah, I'm a fan of the show. So always nice when that happens.
Well, I'm going to Coinconcede to Dazzledorn, who came into my stream Monday night and was very excited to announce that they had just gotten Legend for the first time in 11 years of playing, and then proceeded to win in Legend after that. So they came in relatively high too. They came in at like 3,700, which is, for a first time Legend, is very good.
And just kept climbing.
And then improved it. So congrats to them, and keep doing it, and then do it again next month, hopefully. So.
Well, and just some of it is amount of play, and then also just the mental block. I think they said in the Discord that they had started to feel like they were just never going to hit Legend, but clearly the level of play is there, right? It's the same people when you hit Legend. So,
I mean, everything from Diamond 5 to Legend, if you've gotten to Diamond 5, everything that's from Diamond 5 to Legend is really just emotional management and time. That's really all it is, because you already have the skills to get, if you have the skills to get to Diamond 5, you have the skills to get to Legend. It's just being able to apply them consistently. That's the difference between Diamond 5 and Legend, and being able to play enough games to do it, obviously. Yeah.
Well, I will Coinconcede to Tita Santana has a new job. Congrats. I know that was a big search and push. Also, Donkey in the Hearthcast event. I can't wait to see that. I can't wait to see both of the launch events. Have some really cool people in them. But Donkey's not necessarily someone who we see as often in this kind of thing, and they're a big part of our community. Yeah. So excited to see that. Also, Coinconcede to my husband for putting up with my salt while I was busy losing consistently over the holidays, and doing my best not to bring it here and practice all of the things that we've talked about. He's also been doing really well in Hearthstone. He today kept sending me pictures of his rank while he was supposed to be doing work. Being like, I'm at gold 4. No, wait. I'm at gold 3. No, wait. So he's still got, I think he had a ×4 bonus this month.
Okay.
So he's working his way up the ranks. It's like his second month really
Just
playing.
keep chipping away at it. So, but that is going to do it for us for this week. So until next time, keep calm and construct additional pylons, and ignore the fact that I said that last week also. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Point and concede.
All life must end. I yield for now. I concede. Well fought. I concede.
You win this one.
The victory is yours.
You have bested me.
I give up.
You win this one, friend. You win this time. I choose death.